All right, we're back. Check the mic after dark. Our third instant reaction, fourth instant reaction of week one. Where are we? Monday Night Football. Pretty easy win for the San Francisco 49ers. Aaron Rodgers returns. Welcome, everybody. We'll be taking some questions from everybody in the chat toward the end here. But, Sam, what was your initial reaction to Niners-Jets tonight?
Yeah, not great, obviously, for the New York Jets. On the other hand, better than last year, right? You know, Aaron Rodgers made it through the game this time, or at least didn't snap his Achilles after 4 snaps. So, yeah, look, Rodgers certainly looked a little bit rusty. There were some misplays in there. The 4th and 1 throw to Garrett Wilson, I think, was one he would want to reload and take another swing at. I thought generally his movement with the torn Achilles looked, solid enough in the pocket. I thought when he had to get outside the pocket and start running, maybe it looked a little bit worse than it used to. But overall, I think Rodgers looked fine. But I think this sort of showed, number one, like the 49ers are still legit. You take away Christian McCaffrey, that you take away a player or two, they're still the cream of the NFC. They're still the team to beat on that side of things. And from a Jets perspective, that defense that's been so fantastic looked a little bit vulnerable, particularly against the run. And then the Jets offense, the Rodgers to Garrett Wilson thing, I think that part is going to be great, but they really need a few more ways of winning, right? It's really just Rodgers to Wilson right now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought from a Niners perspective, no Christian McCaffrey didn't matter. Another running back that was impressive to me this weekend. A crazy weekend, Sam. I kept highlighting running backs that I was impressed with. Add Jordan Mason to the bunch, running hard. They did their normal Kyle Shanahan offense, right? Which was we're running inside, outside. We're getting people on the perimeter. We're creating open throws. We're creating explosive plays, creating running lanes, and Jordan Mason running hard and executing it. I thought Brock Purdy, got a few passes, got away from him. His best throw was probably dropped in the end zone by Brandon Ayuk. He looked a little rusty as well early on, but it's the same old Niners. They had everybody but Christian McCaffrey, 6 field goals from Jake Moody, so it could have been worse, but they still put up 32 points. Is that a major concern for the Jets and their defense, or is this just, hey, this is what the 49ers do?
Yeah, so, there's always that question week one, right? How much of it is the opposition? How much of it is you? I think the 49ers are great. We know that. This offense is fantastic. It's really difficult to stop, whether or not they have Christian McCaffrey. We know that they have, before Christian McCaffrey got there, they were able to plug running backs in, getting crazy production out of them. We know that this is a factory for incredible offense. So we know it's a tough opponent to go up against. But it will definitely concern the Jets that there were a lot of plays in this game where they knew exactly what the 49ers were doing and still couldn't stop it. That's a major problem. And then that opened up other things off the back of that. I mean, Kyle Juszczyk's big reception down the sideline, that came on a play action pass where, Juszczyk is faking the lead block as a fullback through the middle and then yoink straight past them into the open space behind because they've been hammering the Jets so hard with that run game. So, yeah, the Jets are supposed to have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They didn't get a ton of pressure. A huge part of that is the fact that they were being run all over to begin with. Everyone's like, well, Hassan Reddick's still out there. Hassan Reddick is not fixing that run defense.
No, definitely not.
That was a problem. Quinnen Williams, right at the start of the game, made a couple of big plays, and then it felt like for a while the 49ers ran away from him and, went to the perimeter, went with outside runs a bunch. And then once they kind of got those rolling, everything was able to go. They were able to just run wherever they wanted at that point.
The run defense kind of felt like the early Robert Saleh Jets teams that had they had issues all over the place. They gave up the 250 and 250 to the Colts that one time, running and passing. Carson Wentz's Colts, they were kind of gashed in a similar way on the ground. Hassan Reddick may not have helped the run defense, but first run PFF grades have only one jet with more than one pressure, 7 pressures from individual players. So, I mean, it was a poor defensive effort from the Jets, but to me, it just felt like, hey, this is the Niners and what they do. Did we ever get word on what happened with Sauce Gardner? coming out of the
No,
game
only
at a key
only
time.
that it wasn't injury related. I'm not.
Yeah.
I didn't ever see a reason why it happened, other than it wasn't an injury.
Well, I just want to wrap it up. Like game review, we'll take some questions from everybody. But as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, I thought your recap was pretty solid. I think physically he looks okay. I still have concerns. Like the interception that he threw, I don't think it was a bad force or anything, but he couldn't get as much on the ball. It gets tipped up, it's picked off. There was pressure in his face there. Got pressured early in the game. Got sacked. My concern with almost 41-year-old Rodgers, as I've said before, was similar to an older Drew Brees, an older Tom Brady. It's not the clean pocket so much. It's not reading things, the free play where the zip is there. I'm worried about anything off platform, anything where he's got to move his feet, anything where he's got to try to avoid a hit at this point in his career. That would be my concern if I'm the Jets. They shored up the offensive line to mitigate some of that. I think he was clean most of the game, but if they go up against a team that's getting pressure, got my concern still, I would say, with Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rodgers looked fine. And again, like the baseline heading into the season was they don't need him to be an all-pro. They just need him to be pretty good, and the rest of that team is good enough for them to be a contender. I think Rodgers showed in this game he's still capable of being pretty good. Now, the sort of the flaw with that thinking might be, okay, but now look at the receiving group that he's throwing to, and maybe that actually isn't as good as we thought it might have been. Garrett Wilson, I think, is still fantastic. I think Rodgers to Wilson will be fantastic. I think Brees Hall in the backfield is really good as well. But like Alan Lazard is basically matching Garrett Wilson for playing time, for volume in this offense. And Lazard is there because Rodgers likes him. Like he's not there because he's a positive influence necessarily on this offense. He's not bringing a whole lot to the table. And
wait,
as a
six
third
catches,
receiver,
wait, 6 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns, the second one from Tyrod over here, Sam.
Right, but how much? Like number one, some of that's in garbage time. Number two, a lot of that's Rodgers just force feeding him the football because there's nowhere else to go with it. And then the third receiver, there's nobody. Like they don't have anybody operating as a third receiver at the moment. So they need to find a few more avenues for Rodgers to go with the football because it's going to be problematic if his entire offense is just laser focused on Garrett Wilson. And if the Manning cast had Bill Belichick in there for the first quarter or so, Bill Belichick's just saying, why is there a play taking place where Garrett Wilson isn't being double teamed? Like I would have this guy double teamed every single play because there's nowhere else to go with the ball right now. So that's what's going to happen. Like a coach like Belichick is screaming that from the couch. Anybody else watching the tape is going to come to the same conclusion. Until you're scared of Alan Lazard or any other wide receiver, Garrett Wilson is about to get an absolute boatload of attention, and that's going to really cause them problems.
It was good to hear from the 33rd team's own Bill Belichick. Belichick of the 33rd team /ESPN /underdog /inside the NFL /whatever else he's on, Pat McAfee show. No, Bill was great. He was over there talking about Shanahan too. He goes, in breakers, cover the in breakers, inside leverage. And then next one, it's like dig route, wide open. It was great. So nice job. This was the least exciting of the primetime games so far. We had Ravens Chiefs. We had the Eagles Packers at both games pretty much going down to the wire. And then overtime, Lions Rams as far as primetime goes. So the worst of the game so far, but we got to see Aaron Rodgers, got to see the Niners. The Niners, I think they're going to be a force once again this year. So we'll take any questions here on the way out. We did have our guy Mohal asking about if we're almost at 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Should we do something fun here when we hit 10,000? I don't know.
Like what?
What do we do? Throw a party or something?
I don't know.
Baxter thinks the play calling was to protect Aaron and ease him back in. They ran the ball a lot early. It was a lot of run, pass early on. Do you think that was the reason?
Probably, yeah. Like I think they definitely wanted to ease him back in. Now the question becomes so obviously Nathaniel Hackett is their offense coordinator. Nathaniel Hackett's time in Denver was an absolute catastrophe. The feeling was always Aaron Rodgers will just overrule Nathaniel Hackett when he wants to. And maybe that is true generally. I don't know if Rodgers is sort of himself comfortable enough to do that yet, like coming back from the injury. So that will be an interesting thing to kind of monitor, right? Is will Rodgers reach a point where he feels himself that he's back and okay, now I'm tired of this run pass crap. I actually want to start changing some things at the line myself. And Rodgers, because that to me that was like the thing, right? I don't really care what Nathaniel Hackett brings to the table because I don't think that he's actually running the show. Rodgers is, but
Right.
Rodgers didn't look like he was for a lot of this game. Now he started to loosen up, and that's where you got some of the hard count stuff. But I don't think Rodgers is doing what Rodgers would used to do yet.
I have to dust off some of my year-old takes though on the Rodgers Hackett thing. I think Rodgers might miss Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur has shown, now that we know what he's done with Jordan Love, he's shown that he is a huge key to creating offense, developing a quarterback. He was the one who coincided with Rodgers having the back-to-back MVPs in 2020 and 21. The 2020 season in particular was ludicrous how many wide-open touchdowns were schemed up in the red zone for Rodgers. Rodgers had a very good season, but man, did he have some gimme touchdowns that year. And LaFleur just did a great job with Jordan Love. The last time we saw Rodgers kind of get to do a lot of the I'm going to control everything was the Mike McCarthy years, was 2018. Right. When Mike McCarthy gets run out of town and Rodgers like, no, I want no motion. I want none of this. And I'm just going to run the show. It wasn't great. That wasn't great. So that's something I would keep an eye on if you're the Jets. There's no LaFleur. Hackett's not a special play caller. And if Rodgers is running the show, I don't know if he's a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, LaFleur was willing to challenge Rodgers and push back against what Rodgers wanted to do in a way Hackett probably isn't. So it's definitely not the optimal, I don't think, scenario that Aaron Rodgers basically serves as his own offensive coordinator. And LaFleur doing that is definitely a better thing than Rodgers doing it by himself. I do, however, think that Rodgers doing it is probably better than Hackett doing it, which is the overall point, right? Is that Rodgers, once he gets sort of comfortable and gets that control back to his own offense, probably upgrades what Nathaniel Hackett is like sending out as default calls.
I got a question for you, Sam. The tweet that I put out there earlier today that was making the rounds made it all the way to SVP. I think using the stat to ask Troy Aikman a question about the state of quarterbacking in the NFL. With 2 passing touchdowns tonight, this was officially the lowest number of passing touchdowns in a season back to 2010, at least in a week 1. And these are the recent totals. Passing touchdowns in week 1. In 2019, we saw 61. In 2020, it was 52. Then it was 61. Then it was 51. Last year was the lowest in a long time at 37. And this year was down at 35. Passing touchdowns in week 1, way down. We know offense was down generally last year. What's the reason, Sam? A lot of theories going around here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we know yet. I will say that for week 1, there's a lot of very young, inexperienced quarterbacks starting week 1. So that's probably a part of it, right? We had all the rookies, even expanding beyond the rookies. Anthony Richardson is basically a rookie. Like the guy's barely played football in his entire playing career, let alone last season with a few games before he got injured. Bryce Young obviously is in year 2, having been a disaster at year 1. Like there's a lot of very young and inexperienced quarterbacks out there dragging the average down. But yeah, overall it was definitely a down week relative to standard NFL baselines. I don't know if we know what the answer is yet. I think we're gonna have to see. Defense has been fighting back for a year or two, and maybe it's still going. Maybe it's still has the sort of the ascendancy or the momentum for whatever that exists in the arms race of coaching. Maybe defense is stealing a march back.
Passing yards were way down as well. Passing touchdowns, rushing yards are up, including QB scrambles. So there is a little bit of ebb and flow, and I think the quarterbacks, I think a little, we've got more running quarterbacks. I think they're taking some of the yardage. The defenses are playing a little bit softer generally, allowing more underneath throws. There's, they're not throwing the ball down the field as much. And lack of preseason playing time has come up a lot in the tweet that I have that has 3.3 million impressions now somehow.
And there might be something to that. There was always, there's always this cliche that in training camp, like early in training camp, defense is ahead, right? And then it takes offense a while to get the installs set, to get everyone on the same page. And then offense eventually catches up and overtakes. if nobody's playing in preseason, then logically defense stays ahead because the offense simply isn't getting the playing time to catch up and get ahead. And maybe that's what we're seeing now is that defense starts off ahead. Offense never gets enough playing time between training camp and preseason to catch up and start. And so the season is going to start with slow offenses. I mean, Cincinnati, right? We keep talking about their slow starts. What we really mean is the offense starts slowly because the defense is generally fine for the Bengals. It's the fact that Joe Burrow and the offense don't fire in week 1 or week 2. They start slowly. So maybe that is the answer is that preseason is dinging offensive production earlier in the season.
All right, last thing. Someone brings up the Jets have an easy schedule the next few games. They have another road game. They're at Tennessee. Then they're home on Thursday Night Football. Their home openers, Thursday Night Football against the Patriots in week 3. Then they have the Broncos at home. So, and then they have the Vikings. And so there's our guy right there. So let's not, I'm not overreacting tonight. I'm a little concerned about the Jets defense, but not really. I think that's just, hey, you ran into Kyle and friends, and they tend to do that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we said that right up top, right? Let's remember what the opponent was, which is a Super Bowl caliber team and probably the best team in the NFC until given reason to think otherwise. That being said, let's also, I mean, look at that schedule again, right? Those we thought were really easy games. The Patriots defense just looked for real. Tennessee looked like they were a pretty good team and managed to throw it away against Chicago. Yep. Minnesota looks like they're going to have one of the most difficult to diagnose defenses in the NFL again and upgraded with personnel. And then, okay, maybe Denver is a relatively easy game. But those are 4 games that theoretically are sort of win total projection-wise are weaker opponents. But in particular for this Rodgers side of the ball, 3 out of those 4 I don't think are easy matchups.
All right, Sam. I'm with you, man. I think those games will be pretty good. On paper, they do look, obviously they're winnable. Jets against those teams, they'll be favored, I think, in all of them. But yes, those should be pretty good matchups. I'm strangely high on the Titans because of their defense. We'll see what Will Levis does going forward. Anything else? Hopefully we get paid by the hour. Can we get something? No, forget it.
We get overtime?
Where's the overtime? Where's the overtime? Guess what? We're going to take tomorrow off. How about that?
Yeah. Okay,
unless something breaks. Unless something big breaks, we'll take tomorrow off. But schedule for the rest of the week after you guys, hit the subscribe button while you're here. Hit the thumbs up and the bell, of course. And if you didn't see the week 1 review, obviously go watch the week 1 review. It's up there.
Hours.
Yeah, we went for a full 3 hours and 1 minute, Sam. We set a new standard, I think, that we need to live up to every single Monday morning. So go do that. But we're going to be back on Wednesday. Our guy Dean Blandino will be back. I believe we're talking to the producers. We got Janko behind the scenes over here working for us. We might have a very special guest to break down some of the young quarterbacks. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Confirmed.
Do you want to announce who it is? Are we gonna?
You can announce
tease it. Jay Gruden
Confirmed.
Gonna be with us. Jay Gruden breaking down young quarterbacks. Bryce Young. What's wrong with Bryce Young? So we'll be breaking that all down on Wednesday's show, and of course Thursday the full week 2 preview. It starts to get going quick here, Sam. Starts to get going very quickly. So again, make sure you're subscribing right here on the YouTube channel. YouTube exclusive. It's Check the Mic After Dark. Thanks to everybody for being here. We'll see you again on Wednesday with more Check the Mic.